is
Have you ever
going
seen someone
on?
make a terrible mistake and face
I am
instant
calling the
consequences?
police. This is
This is the story
unacceptable.
of Margaret Price, a wealthy woman who thought her money made her better than everyone else, and a Johnson family, whose simple act of kindness would teach her the most important lesson of her life. Margaret Price lived in Willow Creek, the most expensive neighborhood in town. Her mansion sat on 3 acres of perfectly manicured lawns, rose gardens that cost more than most people's cars, a circular driveway with a fountain in the center. She drove a white Mercedes and wore designer clothes every single day. But Margaret had one problem. She believed her wealth gave her the right to judge everyone around her, especially people who didn't look like her or live like her. On a sunny Saturday morning in June, Margaret was watering her prize-winning roses when she heard children laughing. She looked over her tall hedge and saw something that made her blood boil. A black family was having a picnic in Riverside Park, the public park that sat right next to her property line. The father was pushing a little girl on the swings while the mother spread a blanket under a big oak tree. 2 teenage boys were tossing a football back and forth. "How dare they?" Margaret muttered under her breath. This is a respectable neighborhood. The truth was, the Johnson family had every right to be there. David Johnson worked as a nurse at the local hospital. His wife, Lisa, taught 3rd grade at the elementary school. Their daughter Zoe was 8 years old and loved butterflies. Their twin sons, Marcus and Michael, were 16 and both honor students. But Margaret didn't care about any of that. All she saw was a family that didn't belong in her neighborhood. She marched inside her house and grabbed her phone. Her perfectly manicured nails clicked against the screen as she dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a suspicious group of people in Riverside Park, Margaret said, her voice dripping with fake concern. They're acting strange. I think they might be planning something. Ma'am, can you describe what they're doing that seems suspicious? Margaret looked out her window again. The family was still having their peaceful picnic. The little girl was now chasing butterflies while her parents watched and smiled. They don't belong here, Margaret said. This is a safe neighborhood, and I'm worried about my property values. The dispatcher paused. Ma'am, is anyone in immediate danger? Well, no, but is anyone breaking the law? Margaret hesitated. They're being loud and disruptive. It was a lie. The Johnson family was being perfectly quiet and respectful. But Margaret was determined to get them removed from her park. 20 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up to Riverside Park. Officers Martinez and Thompson got out and walked toward the Johnson family. Margaret watched from her window with satisfaction. Finally, someone would deal with these people who didn't belong in her neighborhood. But what happened next would shock her to her core. Officer Martinez approached David Johnson with a huge smile. David, hey man, how are you doing? David looked up from the picnic blanket and grinned. Carlos, I didn't know you were working this area now. The 2 men hugged like old friends, because that's exactly what they were. Officer Thompson joined them. Is this the family you told us about, Carlos? Sure is, Officer Martinez said. David, Lisa, this is my partner, Officer Thompson. David here saved my daughter's life last month. Margaret's jaw dropped. What was happening? Officer Martinez turned to the Johnson family. Someone called about suspicious activity, but I told dispatch this was probably just a misunderstanding. You folks have every right to be here. Lisa Johnson stood up, brushing grass off her dress. We're just having a family picnic. We come here every Saturday after David's night shift at the hospital. The hospital? Officer Thompson asked. Are you a doctor? Nurse, David said proudly. I work in the children's cancer ward. Officer Martinez nodded. David stayed late 3 nights in a row to take care of my daughter when she had that terrible infection. The doctors said his quick thinking probably saved her life. Margaret felt her stomach drop. This man was a hero, not a criminal. But the officers weren't done talking. And you must be the teacher everyone's talking about, Officer Thompson said to Lisa. My nephew is in your class. Tommy Rodriguez? He says you're the best teacher he's ever had. Lisa smiled warmly. Tommy is such a sweet boy. He's been working so hard on his reading. Thanks to you, Officer Thompson said. His parents told me he went from hating school to loving it. You even bought him books with your own money when his family couldn't afford them. Margaret's perfect world was crashing down around her. These weren't the dangerous people she had imagined. This was a family of heroes. Officer Martinez knelt down to talk to little Zoe. "And what's your name, sweetheart?" "Zoe Johnson," she said shyly. "I'm 8 years old, and I love butterflies." "Butterflies are pretty cool," Officer Martinez said. "Did you know there are over 17,000 different types of butterflies in the world?" Zoe's eyes lit up. "Really? That's so many." Meanwhile, the twin boys had stopped their football game to watch the conversation. Both officers noticed their matching hospital volunteer t-shirts. "You boys volunteer at the hospital too?" Officer Thompson asked. "Yes, sir," Marcus said politely. "Every weekend. We read to the kids in the children's ward. And we help deliver food to patients who can't afford meals," Michael added. Officer Martinez shook his head in amazement. This whole family is just incredible. But then, Officer Thompson's radio crackled. "All units, we have a breaking news situation. Channel 7 News is doing a live broadcast about local heroes. They're specifically looking for the Johnson family." Everyone looked confused. "What's this about?" David asked. Officer Martinez pulled out his phone and opened a news app. His face broke into a huge smile. "David, you're not going to believe this. Remember that little boy you helped last week? The one who needed emergency surgery? Of course, little Tommy Williams. Sweet kid. Well, his parents started a social media campaign to find you and thank you. It's gone viral. They want to give you a Community Hero Award." Lisa gasped. "What? That's impossible." But Officer Thompson was already reading from his phone. "Listen to this. The Johnson family represents everything good about our community. David Johnson, a nurse who works extra shifts to help sick children. Lisa Johnson, a teacher who spends her own money to help students succeed. And their children, who volunteer their free time to help others. This family deserves recognition for their selfless service." Margaret couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had called the police on a family of heroes, a family that spent their lives helping others. But the story gets even more incredible. Officer Martinez looked toward Margaret's house. "Ma'am, I know you're watching from your window. Could you come outside for a moment?" Margaret's heart stopped. They knew she was the one who called. Slowly, she walked outside, her face burning with shame. She had never felt so small in her entire life. "Ma'am, I believe you were the one who called about suspicious activity." Margaret nodded, unable to speak. Officer Thompson stepped forward. "I want you to meet the Johnson family. David here is a nurse who has saved dozens of lives. Lisa is a teacher who has helped hundreds of children learn to read. And their kids volunteer at the hospital every weekend." Margaret looked at the family she had tried to have arrested. They were looking at her with curious expressions, not anger or hatred. I made a mistake," Margaret whispered. David Johnson surprised everyone by walking over to her. "Ma'am, are you okay? You look upset." Margaret started crying. Here was this man, this hero, showing her kindness after she had tried to get him in trouble. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I called the police because I made assumptions. Terrible assumptions. I judged you without knowing anything about you." Lisa Johnson joined her husband. "We all make mistakes," she said gently. "What matters is what we do next." But what happened next would change Margaret's life forever. Little Zoe walked up to Margaret with a small wildflower in her hand. "Don't cry, lady. Here, this will make you feel better." Margaret took the flower with shaking hands. "Thank you, sweetheart. My mommy says when people are mean, it's usually because they're sad inside," Zoe said. "Are you sad inside?" Margaret knelt down to Zoe's level. "You know what? I think I have been sad inside for a very long time." David looked at his wife, then at Margaret. "Would you like to join our picnic? We have plenty of food." Margaret couldn't believe it. After everything she had done, this family was inviting her to join them. "I don't deserve your kindness," Margaret said. "Everyone deserves kindness," Lisa said. "That's what we teach our children." The officers were amazed. "In 20 years of police work, I've never seen anything like this," Officer Martinez said. Margaret sat down on the picnic blanket, still holding Zoe's flower. For the first time in years, she was surrounded by genuine, caring people. "Tell me about your work," Margaret said to David. "What's it like being a nurse?" David's face lit up. "It's the best job in the world. Every day, I get to help people feel better. Sometimes I get to help save lives. And teaching, Margaret asked Lisa. I get to watch children discover they can do amazing things, Lisa said. There's nothing better than seeing a kid read their first book or solve a math problem they thought was impossible. As the afternoon went on, Margaret learned about the Johnson family's struggles and triumphs. How David worked extra shifts to help pay for Marcus and Michael's college applications. How Lisa spent her own money on school supplies for students whose families couldn't afford them. How the whole family volunteered at the homeless shelter every Thanksgiving. The twins told Margaret about their dreams of becoming doctors like their father. Zoe showed her the butterfly identification book she was learning to read. Margaret realized she had been living in a bubble of privilege and prejudice. She had surrounded herself with expensive things, but had no real connections with people. I want to do something, Margaret said suddenly. I want to help. What do you mean? David asked. Margaret stood up, her mind racing. The hospital where you work. The school where you teach. What do they need? Lisa and David exchanged glances. Well, the children's ward could use new books and games, David said. And my classroom needs supplies. Consider it done, Margaret said. But I want to do more than just write a check. I want to volunteer. I want to learn how to help people the way you do. The Johnson family was amazed. This woman who had tried to get them arrested was now asking to join their mission of helping others. Officer Martinez shook his head. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But the real miracle was yet to come. 3 months later, Margaret had become a different person. She volunteered at the hospital 3 days a week, reading to sick children. She helped in Lisa's classroom, tutoring students who needed extra help. She had even started a scholarship fund for students who wanted to become nurses and teachers. The Johnson family had become her closest friends. Margaret's mansion was no longer a fortress of isolation. It became a gathering place for community volunteers and a safe haven for families in need. Margaret learned that Zoe loved butterflies so much that she transformed her entire rose garden into a butterfly sanctuary. She invited school groups to visit and learn about nature. The twins, Marcus and Michael, became like the grandsons Margaret never had. She helped them with their college applications and was there cheering in the front row when they both got accepted to medical school. David and Lisa became the family Margaret had always needed. They showed her that real wealth isn't measured in money or possessions, but in the lives you touch and the love you share. The story of Margaret and the Johnson family spread throughout the community. It became a symbol of how prejudice can be overcome by kindness, and how one moment of honesty can change everything. Margaret often thinks about that Saturday morning when she made the worst decision of her life, the decision that led to the best thing that ever happened to her. You know what's funny? Margaret told Lisa one day as they watched Zoe chase butterflies in the garden, I thought I was protecting my neighborhood from you, but you ended up saving me. Lisa smiled. We all need saving sometimes. The beautiful thing is we can save each other. Today, Margaret's house is known throughout the community as a place where everyone is welcome. The woman who once called the police on a family for having a picnic now hosts community barbecues every month. She learned that karma isn't about punishment. It's about opportunity. The opportunity to face your mistakes, learn from them, and become a better person. The Johnson family taught Margaret that kindness is the most powerful force in the world. It can break down walls, heal wounds, and transform hearts. Sometimes the people we fear the most are the ones who can teach us the most about ourselves. Sometimes the moment we think we're protecting ourselves is actually the moment we're destroying our chance for real happiness. Margaret's story reminds us that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to open your heart. It's never too late to discover that the world is full of beautiful, amazing people who are just waiting for the chance to show you kindness. What about you? Is there someone in your life you've judged without really knowing them? Is there a chance for you to build a bridge instead of a wall? Remember, every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Every person you encounter has a story worth hearing. Every person deserves the chance to show you who they really are. The choice is yours. You could be like Margaret was in the beginning, building walls and making assumptions. Or you can be like the Johnson family, extending kindness even to those who don't deserve it. Because in the end, we're all just people trying to find our way in this world. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other find it.